Hello guys, welcome back to another video, and today I got a bit of a spicy one, a bit of a different one for you guys. Today we are going to be looking at the current OCC standings for this current OCC, the OCC qualifiers that just happened, the upcoming OCC Clash Top 8, and the current standings for the OCC Ultimate, where you're going to be looking at which players are guaranteed to be in the Ultimate, which players are guaranteed to not be in the Ultimate, and which players are going to be fighting for their lives this upcoming weekend to make it into that OCC Top 8 Ultimate for the guaranteed 125 and the potential $1,000 first place prize pool. Now, the reason I said it is spicy is because one of these top 38 players this month, or last month I suppose, one of these 38 players was removed from the tournament for presumably cheating. So, if you want to find out who it is and find out if I'm going to be in the Ultimate or if I'm washed and going to go down in a ball of flames, stay tuned, stick in for the rest of the video, and we'll get into that now.
What a performance there by J King.
J King, full plot armor.
J King is pushing himself into the ranks of the legend.
J King is our world champion! J King 7! What? The back-to-back KARDS world champion!
So, to start off, let's take a quick look at the KARDS OCC point system, in case anybody has forgotten or just was never familiar with it because it's not relevant to them. So, in every single OCC Clash, which is the top 8 tournament they have every month, with the top 6 qualifying off of ladder, and then the top 2 qualifying through the qualifiers play-ins, a 32-person, a double elimination bracket, where they take 2 people. And once you're in the top 8, you play, and this is how the points are distributed. So the person who wins gets 25, second 18, third 15, fourth 12. If you get knocked out in the first round, you get 8, and if you get knocked out in qualifiers, you show up to qualifiers, you play, but you don't make it, you get 4. So, pretty fair system. And then over the 3 months, everybody collects all these points, and then the people with the top 8 people with the most points after 3 months will then qualify to the OCC Ultimate, which is a much bigger tournament in terms of its size. Every single set is a best of 5, and everybody who goes there is guaranteed money, and the first place prize is $1,000. So going into this tournament this month, the final month, these are the stand-ins. You have Head on first with a first place finish of 25 points, and then a top 8 finish for 8 points. Birdo Burrito with 2 third place finishes, 15 points each for 30. Leo with just first place, 25. So you can see these are the value of winning. These are sort of the points totals around where you want to get to be quote-unquote safe. And then you see massive points drops going down. Tiger 22, Noan 20, PyTorch 18. This is just a second place, didn't do anything in the first month. Myself 16, these are 2 top 8 finishes. Freddy 12, Uwumoy 12, Jinlun 12, and you have a handful of 8s, and then so many 4s they didn't bother listing them all, because anybody who ever played in a qualifier is going to be on 4 points. So that is the top 8 system. But then let's take a look at the qualifiers that happened just yesterday. On Saturday, you have a whole lot of people dropping, but in this qualifier, Qualifier A, you have Uwumoy taking it out over Tiger in the finals. So if we go back to the leaderboards real quick, we see Uwumoy is sitting down here, tied in 8th. These aren't actual tiebreakers, they're just in alphabetical order, I believe. There will be an actual play-ins to break ties. So Uwumoy tied for 8th, but has now guaranteed himself a spot in the top 8. So he's already guaranteed himself past Freddy at this point. And beating out over Tiger, meaning Tiger's only going to get 4 points. Instead of, I'm sure, what he wanted, which was 8 to be safe. And then in Qualifier B, Well, I should also note that in Qualifier A, you had a couple other noticeable names. Bamboo, obviously 4th in the last World Championship. Killswitch, very strong player. Red Sun, a staple of the OCC Qualifiers, actually ending up 3rd. And then, of course, Freddy, actually the person who was tied with Uwumoy for 8th, unfortunately dropping in 4th place in Qualifier A. And then we go down to Qualifier B, where in the end you had Bezio taking it in one of the very few comebacks from the lower brackets I've ever actually seen in Qualifiers. So Qualifiers is a double elimination bracket, meaning everybody has to lose 2 sets to be knocked out of the tournament. All sets are best of 3s. So the person who wins in the finals has not lost any sets, except the person who loses in the finals, the winners aside finals, drops down, they play another match. If they win it, they go back to play, since those are the only 2 players who have not lost 2 sets. One has lost 1 set, one has lost 0 sets, so the one who's coming in from losers needs to win 2 in a row, which is exactly what Bezio did over Chandelier, who I've never heard or seen before. So, if we go back to look at the OCC standings, we see Bezio was sitting down on 8 points. So now he is clearing past, whereas Chandelier, I believe, was sitting on 0 points. So it is very interesting to see that these players who have already racked up a couple of points, whether it's from playing in top 8s or it's just consistently making qualifiers, these are the players who are winning the qualifiers. So this is going to be very good for them because it gives them the best chance at qualifying. Because otherwise, obviously, if you win first, if you look here, Leo has played in 1 tournament and he won it, and he's 3rd on the leaderboard. So winning an OCC Clash is, even if you have 0 points going into it, winning an OCC Clash is almost certainly going to be enough. Now, it cannot be enough, so it's best to play more, but just winning is going to be enough. But if you go into it with a few points under your belt already, whether it's 8, 12, even 4 points could be enough to make other placements in the top 8 worth it. So if you're only making 1 top 8, you don't want to need to win it. If you can only make 1 top 8 in the 3-month period, but you make qualifiers the other 2 months, that's 8 points, so like maybe you only need to get 2nd, 18 points. If you got 2 qualifiers and 2nd, that's going to be 26 points, and right now we would see 26 points would be 3rd on the leaderboards. So congratulations to Uwumoy and Bezio for crushing qualifiers. And I thought it was interesting to take a quick look at what decks they were using as the 2 winners. So, with Uwumoy's deck list, he has USA-German frontline, pretty standard list. Soviet-France control, which we've seen this list blow up since last month. Now, obviously, it's been around for like 6 or 7 months, but with Leo dominating the last OCC Clash with it, and even though PyTorch kind of got destroyed in the finals, he was also running this deck, and that deck got him to the finals. So yeah, Soviet France, very popular in the qualifiers. And then Uwumoy's 3rd deck is Britain, Japan, Air. A somewhat standard list. He is running this one of Suse, which is very, very interesting to me. And then if we take a look at Bezio's lists, let's start from the bottom, because it's US-German midrange, pretty standard list. It's Soviet-France control. Again, this deck has just blown up in popularity, and it's seen play from all over. And then his 3rd deck is Britain-German discard. So the only difference is what Britain deck these 2 players brought, but their other 2 lists, aside from a handful of card changes, are essentially the same. Soviet-France control, USA frontline, and one of the 2 best Britain decks in the game, which are arguably just the 2 best the 2 best decks in the game right now, Discard and Air. And because in qualifiers there's no ban, that changes things quite a lot. I know I spoke to some players who they went in with the idea of there's going to be so much Air, so I'm going to build decks that counter Air, so they can't pick their Air deck, but then they got blown out by the Discard. And I spoke to one player who went in being like, okay, I'm going to counter Discard, and then only played Air players. And got blown out because they didn't have discard. So it is very different, whereas in a top 8, you can just say, Air or discard, I'm banning Britain regardless. But the problem is, if you're banning Britain regardless, you're going to have to be playing against Soviet France. And that is not a deck you really want to play, because the best decks into Soviet France are probably Britain Discard and Britain Air. And they can ban your Britain too. And Soviet France is a very, very hard counter to USA Frontline. And that's sort of like the number 2 deck right now. So yeah, a very interesting state of the meta. But with those 2 players qualifying, it leads us to the top 8 bracket, which is looking like, well, I mean, it's looking like this. So I'm playing Bezio in the first round. You have Jinlun versus Lindsay Yang. You have Princess versus Uwu Moy. And you have Noen versus Head. Now, if you followed the leaderboards from the last month, you might be thinking to yourself, wait a second, I thought Head ended 7th. If you watched my Road to Rank 1 video, the last episode, the end of season, you saw that Head, well, despite being top 6 throughout the entire month, in the last day or so, unfortunately, he fell. He was the one who couldn't make it, and he ended 7th, so you might be wondering, well, I didn't see Head in the qualifiers. How is Head in top 8 if he got 7th and didn't play in qualifiers? Well, that's a very interesting question, because that leads us to a bit of drama we have for this month's time around. So, to give a bit of, before I just get into it, I will read how this was first brought to attention. This all started in the KARDS OCC Discord, where Bamboo sent the message, my rank was number 39 last season, and shouldn't be on this list. So Bamboo was asked to confirm his playing in the tournament, and he's saying, I got 39th. Why am I playing in top 38? I didn't get top 30, I got 39th. To which Ellen responded, we had an early DQ. Rather than showing the list of participants, we decided to extend it to allow potentially for more players to participate. This is a change in policy that I'm very, very happy about. In June or July 2021, there was an event where a player who had made top 6 announced essentially immediately that he was not going to play in the tournament. It was when they removed all the swastikas and rising suns from the game. And he said, this is censorship, I'm not playing in the tournament as a boycott. And he was top 6. So everyone expected that they were going to just take 7th, move 7th into top 6, move on with their lives, maybe take 39th, put them into top 38. And the official policy was, no, we're just going to play like he didn't show up on the day. We're just going to play top 8 with 7 players. And the person who was meant to play against him just gets a bye. And the person who gets 7th, screw you, you're playing in qualifiers. And I was very much against that. I thought that was a very silly ruling. So I'm very happy that they changed that ruling. And, of course, people asked who was the DQ. Because that's pretty interesting. Because this is much more than a simple drop. Because you have a lot of players saying, I'm not going to play in qualifiers. You don't see them grabbing new players. So a DQ is very different than a drop. Because if somebody drops, that's just them saying, I'm not going to play. But a DQ means that they were manually removed from the tournament by the admins. And the fact that they're pulling someone in, it implies that the reason for the DQ is something unfair. Like, if they were taking in a new player because they were removing this person from the tournament, it implies that this person took that other player's spot through unfair means. So, essentially cheating. So, what it sounds very much like at this point is somebody in this tournament was removed for cheating. And, of course, Alan said it's not something we feel appropriate to make public in this case. We run some checks after each season to verify numbers. So essentially after the massive cheating scandals that went on month after month after month, they finally decided we're just going to check everybody who gets high on ladder. We're just going to check, run some checks through their matches, make sure nobody's cheating automatically. So this doesn't have to become a big reveal later on. So somebody that's essentially confirming that, yes, somebody did cheat, but no, we're not going to tell you who it is. Fair enough. That's been the policy basically since forever. Now, it's not difficult to figure out who it is, because if one player was removed, you just look for who is no longer in the tournament. And they'd publish the brackets for top 38, like the qualifiers. So we looked in the brackets, and there was one player missing. Head. Now, Head got second in World Championship. He's first right now on OCC points. He's become a consistent top 6, top 10 player on ladder. I mean, Head has been crushing it in the last 6 months. And now suddenly Head is the one player missing from the tournament when we know one player was banned from the tournament. So there was a very brief moment of, oh my, is Head cheating? Which was immediately replaced by, no, Head is not cheating, because Head is still in the Discord. And not only is Head still in the Discord, Head now has the top 8 role. And of course, Head got 7th on ladder, but Head now has the top 8 role. Which means Head was not removed from the qualifiers and DQ'd. Head was removed from the qualifiers because the person who was DQ'd was in top 6. And they're not going to name names, and since the top 8 bracket is not published right away, it's not published until afterwards, a lot of people started to hypothesize who in top 6 could have been the one to, I mean, who in top 6 was the one who was DQ'd, the one who was cheating. So, let's take a quick look back at the leaderboards for the month of March. This was your top 6. You had myself, Princess, No15, Jinlun, I'm not sure who this player is, and Lindsay Zhang. Now, if you've been following tournaments, you are probably very familiar with myself, you're very familiar with Princess, you're very familiar with Noan, and you're probably very familiar with Jinlun, or at least are aware of Jinlun. The top 4 are pretty tournament regulars, they've played in multiple tournaments, so if one of these players are cheating, that is the very big news. How long have they been cheating for? Now, Lindsay Zhang is a newer player. He's played in 2 or 3 qualifiers in a row, and this is the first time he's made top 6. So maybe it's them. Or there's player number 5, who I have no idea who they are. I've never seen them before. They've made one previous OCC qualifier in February, and they've never made top 100 before that. So, of course, my immediate bet, if I had to place money on it, was it's probably player number 5, the player I've never seen before, who's suddenly 2,900, seemingly going from 0 to hero in a snap of the fingers, whereas, like, Lindsay Zhang is pretty new, and getting 2,900 is also very impressive, but at least they've been around for slightly longer. You can see them putting in the hours, putting in the grind. So, that was my bet, and, I mean, essentially this morning, they revealed the bracket, and if you look at the bracket again, well, it is, in fact, player number 5, the player who I don't know what their name is, unfortunately, but, I mean, yeah, don't know anything about them, but they have been removed. We don't know how they were cheating, if it was a alt account, like somebody else in top 6, somebody else in top 38, made a second account to try to get the multiple accounts into the tournament. Maybe it was they were win trading, maybe they were cheating, whatever it is, account sharing, whatever it is, that player has been removed, Head has been added in, and this is our top 8. Now, how does this apply to, well, the leaderboards? I mean, we've seen these are the current point totals, but these are the current point totals after 2 months. This is the 4 points for this most recent OCC qualifier has not been applied, and none of the points for the OCC top 8 have been applied yet. So, that is why I went in and made this quick little graphic spreadsheet, just calculating the numbers. So, first off, this is the players in order of their current points total. With the applied points of everybody who has got their 4 points from qualifiers, and everybody who got their minimum of 8 points, everyone in top 8, I have given 8 points because that is the minimum points they are going to be receiving. Now, you might be asking, why haven't I gone down the list even further? These are the only 11 players who can qualify. Everybody who is below this cannot qualify. So the top 8 ultimate is going to be made up of 8 of these 11 players. Now, the players whose names are in red, Head, Birdo, Noan, Tiger, and Leo, are all pre-qualified. And what I mean by that is mathematically they cannot make it. They cannot lose top 8. They are guaranteed 100% into top 8. And that is because you might be wondering what the colors are. The colors are the round 1 pairings. So what that means is between Head and Noan, one of these players is guaranteed top 4. So what that means is everybody below Leo, of everybody below Leo, only 3 of them can gain additional points. And if all 3 of them pass him, he's still in top 8. He's 8th if 3 players pass him. Because Head and Noan play each other, the ones who are already ahead of Leo, it means just mathematically speaking, Leo's guaranteed through. And then obviously the points gained for Head or Noan doesn't really matter other than for seeding, but it's very likely that Head is going to be the number 1 seed. Noan is the only person who could theoretically pass them. I mean, I suppose if I win the tournament, I'm tied with Head on seeding. And also Head loses in the first round. But where this gets very interesting, for yours truly, is I am not guaranteed. I'm very, very close to guaranteed, but I'm not quite guaranteed. So, how the math works out here is if I win in the first round, if I just win the quarterfinal, I win against Bezio at all, it doesn't matter if I immediately lose my next 5 games and end 4th. If I win in the first round, I'm guaranteed through. However, if I lose in the first round, I'm still 6th. I am still 6th, which means 3 players have to pass me. Now, Jinlun and Uwumoi, if they win their sets, they are very, very likely going to pass me. And by very likely, I mean guaranteed. Since if Jinlun and Uwumoi both beat Lindsay's Yang and Princess, respectively, even if they get 4th, they will be tied with me. Which means I would have to potentially play a tiebreaker. However, 3 players need to pass me, which means Bezio needs to get 2nd or 1st if he beats me in the first round for me to not make it in. Or, from Bezio's perspective, Bezio, it's not quite he needs to get 2nd or 1st, because Bezio could get 3rd, and a 3rd place finish would be 7 extra points. He gets 23 points, and then if, let's say, Princess gets 2nd and Lindsay's Yang gets 4th, Bezio would still qualify, but it's much more unlikely. So it's very interesting here who is going to make it, because Jinlun and Uwumoi, everyone below me needs to win in the first round to qualify. However, I could theoretically still qualify even if I lose in the first round, since I am on 24 points rather than 20 or 16. And Princess essentially needs to win the tournament, since he's coming in here with 12 points. It's not quite a need to win. If he is to pass me, the only way for him to pass me is if he wins the tournament. So if Princess beats Uwumoi in the first round, I'm still safe unless Princess wins the tournament. So from my perspective, it's possible I don't make it, but those possibilities are pretty far and few between. I need to lose in the first round. Bezio needs to get 2nd or 1st. And if Princess beats Uwumoi, then it needs to be Princess 1st, Bezio 2nd. So, yeah. It's going to be very interesting. Top 8 qualifier. It's going to be, or top 8 clash. It's going to be very interesting to see what the final results are for the OCC Ultimate. And since this has not been public anywhere, since they only publish all of the points at the end of every tournament, you should keep this in mind. Take a screenshot, whatever you want to do. So when you are watching the top 8, as it's coming out, you could see you could start checking these boxes of who is going to make it, who is going to go in for those last 3 slots and make it to the OCC Ultimate, which is going to be played next month. So with that, I hope you enjoy, and yeah, let me know if you want to see more of these types of videos, just going into sort of the behind the scenes of the esports community, my thoughts, my prepping for it, and what's going on, just sort of like an up-to-date with KARDS esports. And if you liked it, subscribe for more of these, more gameplay in the future, of course. Road to Rank 1 is going to be starting soon. And yeah, that's it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.